Welcome to the SuccessFlow podcast, where our mission is simple: to be better each day and relay our findings with other relentless humans defining success for themselves. If that sounds like you, let's begin. All right, back at it on the SuccessFlow podcast, and we've got a little change up this week. Stephen is very busy this weekend, being father of the year, father of the century. There's a lot of baseball and a lot of creation going on. And so you are going to get the first SuccessFlow episode with just yours truly. I am a little bit lonely, feeling a little bit isolated being on here alone. So bear with me. And hopefully we can bring some value. So with Stephen taking a breather this week, you know that listening to previous podcasts, I am going to go to my area of passion, interest, and where I've been studying for the past 5 years or so around neuroscience and the brain. But specifically to try to expand on some of the other concepts that we've had in the past, but talking specifically today about happiness. And if you ask a number of people, you know, what do you really want? What do you truly want at the end of the day? It's happiness. And just like success and the theme of this show, success is defined very differently for each individual. And we're all trying to really define success for ourselves. Well, that goes hand in hand with happiness. What's happiness for one person is different from the other, even with common goals and lifestyles. So keeping that in mind, the topic and specific area and individual we'll be talking today is Dr. Daniel Amen, who is a psychiatrist and known for his work with brain disorders. He has his own line of clinics that he is the owner and director of, and has developed some technologies, SPECT specifically, single photon emissions, computed tomography, which is, I have absolutely no idea what that is actually, but I know that it's used to really do a deep dive on brain disorders, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So he has 5 bestseller books on the New York Times, but specifically for today, we're going to be talking about You Happier, which I love because it is driven from neuroscience and about 200,000 brain scans from people across 155 countries. So really kicking us off, the concept that we just mentioned, or the relationship between success and happiness, a lot of people, myself included, used to be this way. We think we will find success and then we will be happy. And what is really outlined in all of these studies and research is that it's actually the inverse. And obviously there are differences in situation person by person, but it has been overwhelmingly seen that the fact that those who find happiness and choose it, no matter, regardless of the circumstances and how difficult things are right now, but those that are able to find happiness where they are in the present moment with the things that they're struggling on and working toward, success follows that happiness, and it is a choice. However, I know you listeners are probably similar to myself that said, that sounds great. That sounds very pie in the sky. Sure, I'll just be happy and then success will follow. We know that it takes more work than that. We know that we're watering the bamboo shoot and trying to put practical ways to do this. So bear with me while we kind of jump into some of the neuroscience. That being stated, the premise that we're really trying to focus on here is that happiness is a function of the brain. So we're really talking about our brain health as a key portion of driving happiness. The healthier brain we have, the more control we have, the more decision-making prowess we have in the moment with a healthy brain. I also like the concept that Daniel Amen takes in the fact that happiness is a moral obligation. And that's strong wording and a strong position, but I love that, because if our happiness is a key factor in driving success, and we are truly, this is a very stoic concept, but we are in charge of taking care of our happiness, not any outside factor. So we're looking to go inside and take more control over our mind, because our projection of reality is all based on that's going on inside of us. As above, so below. So he also goes into a very specific methodology there. As you know, I'm going to be talking about meditation and flow states here, that this is not the don't worry, be happy. He specifically talks about that song in the book and how it was a bestseller, or it flew up the charts and was very popular, but that is not the way, because we need a certain level of anxiety in our lives to make us happy. So that anxiety is our risk aversion that keeps us on the path and allows us to keep trotting toward our specific goals. And we're not talking about the anxiousness that literally paralyzes us into analyzing everything, getting too far in the future or the past. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a level of anxiety in the fact that I am looking to survive and accomplish these tasks in my life, so that I need to be attentive in the present moment, making every decision based on, is this good for my brain or bad for my brain? There's a little bit of anxiety that is required there. So healthy state of paranoia is a key aspect of most successful people, all successful people, I would argue. So don't worry, be happy is not it. We're not checking out and meditating on a cliff or in a Tibetan monk, unless that is your definition of success. That's not the key. So the two areas of the book that I found very interesting is that one of he has 5 brain types and 7 secrets, which are not so much secrets. We've covered many of them on this pod before, but the way he breaks it down is very helpful. So his first secret is knowing your brain type. And there are 5 brain types that he lies out. And I'm sure that, like me, it's more of a Venn diagram for some of you, but taking a look at these was very eye-opening, thinking about who you're working with from a leadership perspective in your organizations or your spouse. The balanced brain is the first one that Dr. Amen mentions, and wouldn't it be nice? These are the folks that just seem to operate very well balanced. They have things that are currently often good systems and processes in place. Their emotional states level. They're easily able to focus on tasks and then transition from one to the other. This is the ideal type. And I got a little frustrated reading with this. I'm like, these people are out there, man, that must be nice. But usually they are the ones that have put it in the work to see what the other 4 types they were, and to put some effort in and putting the tactics that are in this book in place to become that well-balanced brain. So that's type A, and probably the or type 1 rather. And what we're striving for is to be a balanced brain. Type 2 is the spontaneous brain. And this is the area that I believe that I fall into. These are typically folks that like their hands in a lot of things, extremely curious, very hungry, thirsty for knowledge and experiences, and trying to get every bit out of life they can. However, the spontaneous brain requires systems and some routines that are a little forced and uncomfortable to discipline the focus to be able to stay on single tasks. This is my driver for getting into this work, is focus being a superpower, and being able to harness that, to me, is the number one key skill to be successful in knowledge work and creativity. But maintaining a creative sense, maintaining the ambition and curiosity while really being able to focus and do deep work on specific tasks, that is type 2, the spontaneous brain. Type 3 is the persistent brain. These are folks that typically do have their systems in pretty good check and are constantly trying to add on and put the next step in the process, get very keyed in on the future, and really tied to the outcomes of the future, which can be a challenge of all of its own, as we know that anxiety can creep up there and also make the present moment a challenging scenario for these folks. Type 4 is the sensitive brain. These are very empathetic people, kind of like what it sounds like, a lot of therapists, counselors, folks that are very empathetic toward other human beings, feeling emotion quite a bit. And oftentimes those emotions, not only their own, but other people's, can impact their happiness level. So if you're taking on other people's energy and experiences, I think I have a little bit of this one too. If you don't find a way to put up barriers and release those external emotions, experiences, that can weigh you down and impact your happiness. So that's brain type number 4. And then brain type number 5 is the cautious brain, which just how it sounds, they're extremely risk adverse and are always thinking about the what ifs in the scenario, trying to mitigate any curveballs that might be coming. And that can get you stuck without taking risks. We all know that most good things in life come from a certain amount of risk, and that the ability to take risks is very key on the path to success, because our purposes and our high, lofty goals and our missions, they're not a straight path. So the ability to take risk and having confidence in your ability to adjust and meet the needs of any challenge that comes your way is really key. So those are your five brain types. Highly recommend you doing some self-reflection and figuring out which brain type you are as a starting point, since that is Dr. Amen's key number 1. Number 2 is really optimizing the physical functioning of your brain, which we have talked about a lot on this podcast, some of these practices, but we are going to do a refresher and drive them home, because in Dr. Amen's words, when your brain works right, you work right. When your brain is troubled, you are much more likely to have trouble in your life. Pretty straightforward there. But when you work this into your decision making on each activity in your life and being able to map it and say, is this activity good for my brain or is it bad for my brain? When you simplify it that way, it's like we talk about mapping our decisions to our massive transformative purpose, but it almost allows you to simplify it in an easier way. Is this activity good or bad for my brain health, aka with how I'm experiencing the world? So we're trying to nourish our brains in regard to nutrition. This means anti-inflammatory foods. No dietitian here, but what we're trying to get to is whole foods, no processed foods or sugar. We're trying to limit anything that's going to inflame our not only our brains, but our entire body, because it affects everything. This is the most simple way to improve your well-being, is to get clean. Also looking to where you might need to supplement. If you are looking at areas that you might be deficient in, a lot of us are deficient in our minerals. We have not enough magnesium, high levels of iron because of the diet that's put in front of us, low on copper and zinc, and getting an idea where you are there, not over the top to where this is adding anxiety to your life, but really figuring out where your minerals lie, maybe do some blood work, and to learn to love foods that love you back. Once this starts getting into your life as a habit, and you realize that when you eat certain things, that it is dragging you down, making you scattered, increasing the brain fog, it's so much more rewarding to love the foods that love you back, as Dr. Amen says. This is probably an ongoing journey with most listeners in regard to nutrition and training yourself to love these foods. But if you can get into that positive feedback loop, it's such a game changer. And then mastering your mind to gain psychological distance from the noise in your head is so critical. So this is where I'm back to, how can you find silence and true breaks, rest, and recovery in your day? This is not scrolling social media. This is not watching even professional development. That is one of the keys that I had to change 3 or 4 years ago. Is I went down that rabbit hole of personal development, trying to get better. And every minute of my day, trying to consume an edge, whether it was knowledge for my sales craft or knowledge for my mindset, motivational music. We need space to be able to analyze and break down and process all of the consumption that we're doing in our life. So if we can get our inputs cleaned up with what we're reading, what we're listening to, but then give the space during the day, whether it's a half hour or an hour of just laying down, non-sleep deep rest, or if you need a nap, take the nap. But allow that information to process, allow the light bulbs to kick off. And this has been so instrumental to me that when I take that space, whether it's in the sauna or meditation or even open awareness meditation, you don't have to be focusing on your breath or specifically chanting. Just having that space to process, unbelievable in creating the space from the noise that is the world today. These are the key things that are going to allow you to move the needle and really get after your direct goals. Is this slow down to go a lot faster and connect the dots in a more effective way. Dr. Amen also talks to the ability to make it a habit to anchor to the positive aspects of every portion of life. Now, this isn't pie in the sky and check out and it's all rainbows and butterflies when we have serious troubles and obstacles hitting us in life. But it's reframing to the positive aspect of it. What doors is it opening? How are you becoming educated because of these obstacles? And how are they going to benefit you? And how quickly can you take action on it, right? Controlling what's in our circle and having confidence in the ability to handle the things that are out of our control. We know that we can handle whatever the world's throwing at us because of our capabilities, our emotional resilience, the people that are around us, and really building the belief in that confidence. And I know that is hard, but it is one of the things that's going to be critical. Because our mind likes to go to the negative and the problems in our life as a default, Dr. Amen talks about killing ants, which are automatic negative thoughts. We have these all the time. I'm having them jumping on this podcast solo without my brother in arms. But the ability to just crush those immediately and make it a habit to reframe, okay, that's an automatic negative thought. Not all thoughts are truths. They're simply not. Most are not. And so the ability to crush those automatic negative thoughts and try to not necessarily flip them into everything's fine, it's going to be okay, but in this situation, this is the action I can take to have a positive impact on this obstacle, not just dwelling on the negative and letting it to affect our happiness. We choose happiness even in the struggle is what we're trying to drive home here. And so that's what Dr. Amen calls a positivity bias in decision making. Discipline is not a punishment. Discipline literally means to teach. So we are teaching ourselves by putting the proper tactics in place to be the operator of our reality between our ears, choosing how we're going to look at a specific situation and being able to notice what you like about others and what you like about situations more than what you don't. So I really liked that. Because again, it's almost binary, or if not binary, it makes you flip the situation in your head on, if I can only choose what I like about this as opposed to what I don't like, our brain automatically starts working in a different light. So trying to do that in each situation is super critical. And then I loved how the last secret, if you will, is something that we preach over the top on this podcast is, what is your massive transformative purpose? What are your values? And mapping to those. I think this is the most binary we can get. Situation by situation is being able to map it to our purpose, our values. And that just makes it so much easier because it's a first principle. It's not how do I feel about this? It's no, this is what I stand for. And in this specific situation, this is the action I can take based on those values. And I think that's where it almost gets spiritual as well. That massive transformative purpose, I think, is typically tied to something higher than what we know in the material world. Either it's been developed in you, and even if you are an atheist, because I know this portion can be triggering for certain people, but your highest self, your highest potential is something that is bigger than you, even if you don't believe in any type of divine universal power. So making yourself that in that situation and aligning to your specific highest purpose can help guide you there. And if you are more spiritual, thinking about how that higher power feels and taking that all into consideration. So a quick hitter episode here. I hope that this was valuable. Stephen will be back with us next week. We have some great guests on the horizon. And thanks for tuning in. If you can, we're getting a lot of feedback on this from side conversations and people coming out of the woodwork, but they're not formally on the podcast medium that you're listening on. If you could subscribe, like, write a comment, we'd be eternally grateful. Thanks again from the SuccessFlow podcast, and have a great day.